Hi, I'm Barbara Calvi, licensed marriage and family therapist, and I want to welcome you to the Couples Corner. So today is part 3 in my 3-part series on the desire gap, the difference between your sex drive and your partner's sex drive that's causing you distress. In video 1, I talked about some reasons why a desire gap might exist. In part 2, I gave you information about responsive desire and spontaneous desire. And today in part 3, I'm going to talk about something called the dual control model. And all this means is that there are 2 separate systems that operate when it comes to sex drive. One is we would call the accelerator. Those are the turn-ons. And one are the brakes, the brake operator switch, and those are the turn-offs. So what's important about these 2 things is they operate very separately. So for example, if you imagine a slider switch, like for a light switch that's a slider, but you imagine it kind of being horizontal instead of vertical, on one end, if you look at the accelerator switch, on one end you could have a very sensitive accelerator, which means these are people who a lot of things might turn them on. And the other end of the switch is the insensitive side. You could have an insensitive accelerator, which means that very few specific things turn you on. Most people are somewhere in the range, somewhere in the middle. Then you have the switch that is for the brakes, the turn-offs, and you could have a very sensitive brake, which means there are a lot of things that would shut you down, and you could have a very insensitive brake, which means that almost nothing would shut you down. So you could end up with a person who has a very sensitive accelerator, lots of turn-ons, and a very insensitive brake, very few turn-offs. These are people who sometimes behave impulsively and often end up making sexual choices that might not be the best. They maybe hook up with people that they later think, oh, that was a mistake. They might engage in unprotected sex because they're impulsive and they don't take the time to get a condom. And you could have the opposite. You could theoretically have someone who has a very insensitive accelerator, very few turn-ons, and a very sensitive brake, a lot of things that will shut the system down. And again, most people are somewhere in the mid-range. So what's useful about thinking about it in this way is because these systems operate separately, it's kind of like if you were in a car. It wouldn't matter how hard you were hitting the accelerator. If your foot is on the brake, you're not going to go anywhere. So I invite couples to really think about for each member of the couple, what are their turn-ons? What is it in the environment? What is it about their partner? What is it their partner can do? What is it they do internally? I even ask themselves, what do I do to turn myself on? Is it I get myself mentally prepared and nice and relaxed? I make sure I take a shower earlier that day because I just feel better. I make sure that the bed is made or the dusting is done so that I'm not distracted. What are the things that I do that help turn me on? And to make a list of all the accelerators. And then I also ask them to make a list of all the brakes. What are the things that turn you off? What are the things that just shut you down, including how do you shut yourself down? Is it, oh, I let myself get too distracted about the chores that are undone in the house, or I worry about work the next day. So there are external things and internal things that are going to contribute on both lists. And then when you've got those lists taken care of, talk to your partner about, okay, how do we take some of these brakes off? How do we incorporate more of the accelerators? And also note that there are different kinds of brakes and different kinds of turn-offs. Some are temporary and you can recover from them, like the phone might ring and someone's leaving a message and you have to pick it up because you've been waiting for this phone call, but you can recover from that and get back into the mood. And there are some things that are called a hard brake that you're not going to recover from, and that might be someone walking into the bedroom. That pretty much shuts things down. So make those lists, talk to each other about what you can do internally and what you can do in your environment. And sometimes that information and that exercise just in and of themselves goes a long way to help the couples who come into my office deal with their desire gap. I hope it helps you too. And until next time, take good care. Bye-bye.